Hey gang, it's your GM Drakeen here. So this video is gonna try and attempt to summarize my homebrew rules. I'm gonna try and not make this too long-winded because there really aren't that many, but some are more detailed than others, is I guess what's going on here. Also, I wanted to say I'm really grateful for everyone who's checked out my content. Please consider liking, subscribing, and I'm very grateful for everyone who I've been able to DM for. This is a great game. It's a lot of fun. The people are the best part of it, and their ideas and their imaginations and the things they come up with each game. And I have no illusions. I am still learning as a DM. I am humble, so if you ever have any issues and you're in one of my games, please feel free to come to me for any reason whatsoever. I'm happy to hear people's perspective. And I hope I can make this a fun experience for everyone, and I try and improve my content and make the game more fun and more interesting every time I present a session. Without further ado, let's get into the homebrew rules. And generally speaking, if you come in at 5th or higher level, you're going to start out with the maximum amount of gold. This is from the Dungeon Master's Guide, and it's a guideline for giving out equipment. So in the red here, I give you a 750 gold to start, and you can buy magic items with that. You can buy uh, regular gear with that, and I give you a list of every magic item that's in the game currently under 750 gold or under. Okay, so that's that. These are a few of the rules. Some of them are like legacy things from 2014. I have one feat that's homebrew, and it's called Knife Juggler. It basically gives you the ability to throw a lot of light throwing weapons or javelins or really anything you want to throw. And it doubles the range for thrown weapons, and it gives you a reaction attack. So if someone comes into your short range of your thrown weapon, you can use your reaction to throw a weapon at them. That's pretty much the feat, but you can look at that. I have it go into more detail in my other content. Flanking's kind of been left by the wayside of Player's Handbook 24, so I still give you +1 to hit if you have flanking. Uh, and disarming, you can still disarm weapons. I don't think that was covered in 24 either, but you can disarm weapons, and if you beat them, that's how many feet the weapon flies. So if you roll a 20 and your defender has a sword and rolls a 10, the sword flies 10 feet away. So however much you beat them by, that's how far the weapon flies out of their hands. These are mostly containers on the right for your gear, and they're pretty self-explanatory. If you want, a rucksack to carry twice as much gear, bandoliers for small things like daggers and darts, and a catch is like a holster for javelins. And so that's that. So this is more along the arcane corner of my homebrew stuff, starting from the upper left. Spell books. If you're a wizard, you get 7 spells at first level instead of 6, and as you level up, you get 3 more um, every level. Okay, and that's in addition to course any refine. You get a number of bonus languages for high intelligence modifier. So if you have 18 intelligence, you have a +4 modifier. You get 4 extra languages which you can choose. Enough said about that. So spell memorization, I get into more detail in another video, but basically it allows you to memorize spell scrolls that you find. Now you can memorize a number of spell scrolls up to the number of spell slots you have. You cannot memorize things that are higher level than you can cast. Why would you want to do that? Okay, so maybe you have a spell that you don't need every day, but when you need it, right? Maybe it's Featherfall. Okay, um, the way scrolls normally work is you have to use an action. Now, Featherfall, you kind of need to cast it as a reaction. If you're casting it as an action, that means you got to dig it out of your wherever you put your scroll and cast it before you hit the ground. Not likely, right? So what spell memorization allows you to do is, you can actually create spells in the game, and then, memorize them, and basically attune them as how you do that. And when you're ready to cast them, you can cast them as a bonus action or a reaction, like Featherfall. Okay, there's others too you might want to carry around. Okay, Any rod or a magic wand, rod, staff you can use as uh, any magic weapon. That's what we're talking about. Rods, wands, and staffs can be used as a magic weapon. Okay, so even if it's a wand of smiles or an immovable rod, you can use it as a weapon if you need to. Okay, so if you're holding it and somebody moves away from you, you can smack them with it. Okay, um, and one reason you might want to use bandolier is if you cast icicle daggers. Okay, um, you have to normally hold them, so you could cast the spell and have them appear in your bandolier. Okay, and then you can use them when you want them. You haven't thrown them, and they last for an hour. That's that. That's one reason. If you want a different kind of weapon, arcane focus, they kind of opened up the wizard to all simple weapons, so you can have a different kind of arcane focus. That's how much they cost. Enough said about that. And then, so adamantine weapons are handled differently. And armor is how hard is the same as it is ever been for the armor. But adamantine weapons, in addition to the automatic critical hit against objects, in my game, you have an increased crit range. So if you normally roll a natural 20 and critical hit on that, you can crit on a 19 with an adamantine weapon. If you're a champion, if you crit on a 19 or 20, you can crit on an 18 with adamantine weapons. So it stacks. Um, Adamantine armor. So I invented three basically homebrew weapons: adamantine spiked armor, adamantine shield, and adamantine studded leather. All of them require you to see the attacker and then use your action to uh, uh, make the critical hit a normal hit. And then further critical hits are treated normally. So you can use this armor to negate one critical hit from an attacker that you can see. Enough said about that. Okay. The spiked armor does not increase the crit range when you use it to attack somebody with, though. Just FYI. Mithril. So mithril, they cost 500 base plus whatever the cost of the armor or the weapon. All right. So the only change I made to mithril armor is they mention in the Dungeon Master's Guide that mithril chain shirt or a mithril breastplate can be worn under normal clothes. To me, that's implying it's like very, very light. Or it could be light armor. So it could be worn with someone with light armor proficiency, like a warlock or something like that. And you get your full dexterity modifier for wearing it. Now, I believe mithril chain shirt would be 550 gold. So you could purchase that with your starting gold. Um, Mithril range weapons. So mithril weapons are a little more detailed, and this is kind of what I was talking about, but I'll get through this as quick as I can. So range weapons, if it's thrown or if it's ammunition, you can shoot or throw it out to long range without suffering disadvantage if it's mithril. Okay, so that's pretty simple. All range weapons go out to long range, no penalty if they're mithril. Sorry. Mithril melee weapons. Um, any weapon doesn't have the heavy property and it doesn't have the light property. So if both of those things are true, it gains the light property. So that's true for the following weapons down here, or mithril maces, mithril spears, okay? All those weapons. Next, mithril heavy weapons. So if a weapon has the heavy property, normally, if it's crafted with mithril, it loses the heavy property. Okay, so that includes these weapons, glaives, great axes, etc. If a mithril already has the light property and does not have the thrown property, it gains the thrown property, and you can throw it, that range, 10 by 10 short range, 30 long range. Not much, but something for light weapons. Okay, and that includes, these weapons, scimitars and short swords. So that's that. Moving right along. So skills come up quite a bit for some reason in combat situations these days. So you can use these skills in combat, but if it's intelligence based, if it's wisdom based, if it's charisma based, you can use it as a bonus action, or maybe even interaction. I might allow that as well. But if it's a physical skill, like stealth, like athletics, like acrobatics, or whatever, that's an action. Okay. Or it's one of your actions if you have multiple, extra attacks or whatever. Um, so let me give you an example of this. If we use a lot of passive checks in combat for some situations. Okay. Passive skills are 10 plus whatever your ability is. Okay, so if you have, say, a passive perception of 10, during combat situations you gain plus 5, so you gain advantage. So your passive perception would become 15. Um, if you can hide, like if the terrain allows you to hide, like say a rogue using cunning action feature, that means if somebody were hiding from you, they would need a stealth score, a hide score of 16 or higher. Okay, so they would have to roll a stealth check and beat your 15. Okay. Um, Say a wizard casts invisibility. Typically, wizards don't have high stealth. Okay, we use their passive stealth. Say they have a 14 dexterity, so they have, I don't know, plus 2 to their stealth, so it's passive 12. You wouldn't be able to see the wizard, but you would know where that wizard's location is. Okay, that would apply for anybody who hasn't made a spell check. If you're, I don't know, if you're Gloomstalker and you're moving around, if you haven't made a stealth roll, we use your passive stealth, whatever that might be. If it's, I don't know, if your dexterity is 14 or you have stealth, so maybe you have a passive stealth of 18. Somebody needs an 18 passive perception to see you, or signs of your passage. It could be they hear you, it could be they see your steps in the snow, it could see you brush by a branch, whatever. They know where you are, they just can't see you, and so they still be a disadvantage to hit you. I hope that makes sense, right? And these modifiers at the bottom are kind of examples. Okay, if you're, if the person gets 100 feet away from you, they gain plus 2 to their passive stealth. If they're 200, they're just harder to find the farther they get away. So if you went invisible and ran away, that's kind of when these situations come up. Okay, where's the wizard? You can't see him anymore. Where is he? Okay. Some situations come up where the person's flying and invisible. That came up in a game recently, and they're even harder to find. So just something to be aware of. Another way you might want to use a skill check during combat is if you want to identify an enemy attack, like an enemy spell. This gives an example. I think this is from Tasha's or Xanathar's. I can't remember exactly which, but you can use your arcana, your passive arcana, to identify the spell, and then if you can't do that, you can use your reaction or bonus action to try and identify the spell. So I would use your passive arcana first. If you identify it that way, I tell you what the spell is, and if it's from your class, I might tell you anyway. So that's that. So that's one thing, and then other skills. I made gaming. All the gaming sets are now all just gaming. So if you have skill in one gaming set, you have skill in all gaming sets. I think that makes sense. And then I gave halflings gaming proficiency because of just the background for halflings kind of dictates that they would have gaming automatically, in my opinion. So only thing with flying is some people fly in combat. You can only turn 90 degrees. Okay. It just gets weird if you start doing other stuff. Because flying, you need to keep moving every turn. Okay, if you're not moving when you're flying, that's called falling. Okay, and I don't use the limit on falling damage. You can take as more than 20d6. You can if you're 1,000 feet in the air, you're taking all that damage. Okay, just FYI. So be careful. And there's a few other things with flying as well, but those are most relevant, I guess. So yeah, your speed becomes 0. You can fall. Just be aware. This is something that the guild in Baldur's Gate came up with, and as a part of the culture of the game. It's for splitting up treasure. And it was invented by the deity Mask. Mask decided to step in when Joaquin, goddess of wealth and coin, disappeared because of an interaction with the demon prince Grast. So Masks, the god of thieves, and Shadow stepped into the role of merchant and immediately came up, ordered the guild to come up with a policy that would be fair, that would kind of entrust him to the merchants, and this is what he came up with. So, if you're a PC, you're a primary. Any hirelings are secondary. So you would choose first, and then your hirelings, and then until each item is gone, and this would go down to the last coin. So in this way, all the items will be distributed somewhat fairly. It's not 100%. I've seen someone get an item that's worth, because they chose first or whatever, get an item that's worth all the items put together. That happens sometimes too. But this is kind of a way of, I've seen too many tables where treasure can be handled badly, or someone seems to end up with all the magical items and is not interested in sharing or whatever, or doesn't offer. So I kind of came up with this to keep everything fair and fun. So I think that's it. I don't use Unearthed Arcana because it's by definition playtest material. I don't use Homebrew outside like my own. I use Deep Magic and stuff like that. So I don't use maiming and lingering injuries. I don't have players roll for abilities. I don't have people using their own dice. I had a roommate who was a professional DM, and he DM'd for high school students who rolled their own dice, and surprisingly, they never rolled below a 15 for anything. It was very suspicious. He was, but anyway, moving right along. And then no critical ones. So, you know, I don't believe in punishing people if they roll a critical one on their attack, like your sword breaks or it flies across the room or whatever. I don't use that stuff. You don't have to roll for hit points. I think the only reason to do that is if you're on a stream and it's more interesting and fun to see people roll for hit points or roll badly or whatever. And when I do streams, I do have people roll for hit points, but then I have them roll all the dice every level. So if you did roll a bad roll one level, you can roll all the dice at the next level and possibly get rid of it, you know. And then I know some DMs do private death saves, like the party wouldn't necessarily know how close to death their party member is. I say just roll in the open. Just roll in the open so people know. People might see it, because sometimes people miss what's going on the table. Um, I don't use evil alignments. Unfortunately, I've seen that. I've seen more cases where evil alignments go badly than well, if that makes any sense. So don't use that. Um, and I don't allow people to Frankenstein races. I've seen, I don't know why, some people want to switch the attributes of one race with another. Usually it's like within a subclass of races, like halflings or elves or something like that, you know. Um, yeah. And so these are my games. Uh, Tomb of Annihilation at 9 a.m. is full. We still have 3 spots for Rhyme. We have 4 spots for Out of the Abyss on Saturday at 9. Hope to see you at the gaming table. Hope you enjoyed. And take care. Thanks for listening.